doctor for special permission to come out, so I didn't get her as excited as I've tried to get you. And these are people that have fought and died for their country. These are people who have given, who have raised, who have paid, who have made this great country what it is. And we're going to realize when we go to bed, the night of November 2nd, or maybe it'll be the early morning of November 3rd, that what you're a part of right here is going on across this great nation, and it's going to make you very proud. And when Barack Obama and the Democrats, the liberals, and Obamacare lovers have to get up and look at those numbers and stare them in the eye, they're going to realize the entire nation just told them, "How about them apples, boy?" And that's going to be a great moment. That is truly going to be a great moment. My wife is from India. My son was born in Ethiopia, and we've traveled throughout the world. And my wife often says, you know, it's amazing. I don't know that Americans that haven't traveled really realize how great this country is. Most of us, myself included, inherited something we don't deserve. We happen to be born, most of us, in the greatest nation on earth. We have to ask ourselves, have we done enough to hand off to our children and grandchildren what was handed to us? There's nowhere else in the world I'd rather live. There's nowhere else in the world I would live. And I don't know about you, but for too long we got caught up in our cars and our houses and our nice things and our hobbies, and we forgot that we're in charge. This is a republic. You don't hire somebody to cut your lawn and not tell them how you want it cut, and after it's done, tell them how they did. You don't hire somebody to go to work for you and not tell them what kind of job they did. We thought we could hire people and they would do the right thing, and we were wrong. And it's time we take back control. And I don't know about you, this is a great nation that I was handed, and I intend to hand that on to my son and to his children. And if tomorrow all the things in this world were taken away from me and I had to start over, I'd rather start nowhere else than here, where this flag still stands for freedom. And they will not take that away. Don't get me to singing, but I, for one, am proud to be an American because of people like you. It's October 16th, and on Monday we can start voting. It was almost exactly this time 2 years ago, October 12, 2008, when a guy was out in his front yard and he was throwing a football with his son, and he worked for another business, and he hadn't done well in school. He'd served his country in the Air Force, and he was concerned what was going on in this country. He had hopes and dreams for his child and his career. And he wandered over to a political rally. And there was the junior senator from the state of Illinois, and he asked him a question. He said, "Senator Obama, your tax plan is going to tax me heavily, isn't it? It's going to affect my dreams and my hopes for my family." And unfortunately for Barack Obama, there was no teleprompter for him to read from. And he actually spoke from his heart, and he said, "We're going to spread the wealth around. We're going to take from your hard work. We're going to hand it to somebody else who doesn't." And that moment, in my mind, was the founding of the modern Tea Party. That was the moment when the everyday American entered the national stage. This wasn't Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, somebody at a big news station or a newspaper. This wasn't an elected official. This was a guy named Samuel Joseph Wurzelbacher, who came to be known as Joe the Plumber. And a lot of people think that we call him Joe the Plumber because we can't say Wurzelbacher. Well, here in Texas, we got a lot of good German and Czech names. We can say Wurzelbacher. We call him Joe the Plumber because all of us is a plumber, or an electrician, or an insurance salesman, or a farmer, or the guy that punches a clock at a machine shop, or a guy that runs a machine shop, or a teacher, or police officer, disabled veterans. We're all Joe the Plumber. And you remember they attacked Joe the Plumber. He and I were in Illinois giving a speech together 2 weeks ago, and he told me the whole story that I didn't know. Joe the Plumber asked that question, and it was a real scar on the Obama candidacy. Americans saw what he was all about for that brief and fleeting moment because a question was asked that they never should have asked. And he answered it, and he never should have. And we saw what was going to become of the Obama administration. He said, "Michael, you wouldn't believe They made me out to be a tax cheat. You know what? I owed $1,428 in the neighboring county on a derelict piece of property that I hoped to fix up that was worth about 20 grand. You see, you know the worst part about that is? Fox News did a story. They came in and asked the tax assessor collector, a Democrat, how many times did you tell him he owed $1,428? And they said, twice, and went to the wrong address. Did Joe the plumber know that he owed back taxes? He would have had no reason to know. But did it matter? The question was relevant. It was our question. And they sought to discredit him. And they sought to marginalize him. And then we were told that he shouldn't have dared to ask that question about making $250,000 a year, because you know what? They got his tax information. You know how they got his tax information? 3 different people have lost their jobs. A county, a state, and a federal employee. By releasing information in federal, county, and state files that they had as employees of the government that they are not allowed to release. All 3 of them fired, 2 of them criminally prosecuted. But you know what we learned from that information? We learned that Joe the plumber has the audacity to ask a question of Barack Hussein Obama, and he only makes $40,000 a year. He had the audacity to believe that his question mattered. He had the audacity to believe, without a degree from a major university, that he could ask Barack Obama a question. But he asked our question, because he's us. And from that moment, the average, everyday American realized, you know what? This is my country. I get to ask the questions. I demand the answers. They sought to marginalize Joe the plumber because he scares the process. Mostly Democrats, but even some Republicans. He scared the process, and you scare the process. Because when you take control, power is the vacuum, someone else has to give it up.